Now, one thing I think, entire direction out of the box kind of, which product will grow. Because in the survey, probably perception is the only scope where we can get some out of the box solution, which are the product can arise, which any current state does not give. That is, I think, one thing which very additional income.
Anyway, one question to be answered to Usman. We did look at Made in India and Made in Pakistan label.
Yeah, I got that.
No, I just want to tell you the results of it because we didn't discuss it because it was not coming anything significant. So a majority of Indian importers and exporters felt that the labels really doesn't affect market access to any extent. So it was looking, we thought of it when we were putting in the question that this would be something which will come up as a problem, but it did not at all. So that is why it fizzled out, and I did not present the results for it.
And also the sample is very, very small right now. Yeah.
So even for product level, you said, we plan to do that by differentiation by product level, by revenue cut, by whole lot of indicators, but it's just ongoing right now. So
we're actually looking at doing it by the years of trading because that also forms networks.
Different perceptions across. So.
And why did we change between exporters and importers? One thing which we thought to make that divide was to look at importers have to face a lot more custom procedures when it comes down to getting a good inside the country. While an exporter is just waiting on the road, clearing his one document, and it's not his responsibility to clear it off. So I think that is where, when you look at custom awareness of trade policy, as majority of problems of pilferage, of storage, only happens at the importer's angle. So these are things which we wanted to look at when we did the cut between exporters.
Also, when we're looking at it in both countries, I think the value addition is that if you're looking at one flow, if you're looking at imports and we're talking to importers here, then whether the perception is the same when we're talking to exporters in Pakistan. That, ideally one should be talking to partners, but that's not possible. But even if commodity-wise we're able to see whether the perceptions match or not, even that has a policy implication.
Okay, so I'll just use my prerogative for hold you back for 2 more minutes, promise. One comment on this, I think there's a valid point on selection bias, and there's no easy way to treat that, but perhaps at least you're addressing the top segment of products exported. Perhaps you can also look at the products that are exported actually very little, but at least they do have experience of trading. And so why is it that they're trading so little with respective countries? That may address part of the problem. There's one methodological point that I'd like to make also. I think this point was raised in the CGE context about what you mentioned, Mr. Pasha, about the question of creation of trade versus diversion and the MFN. The point, I think, it should be remembered that the current trade is actually is a what's the word? It's not the optimal one because there is discriminatory trade right now. So merely going to MFN trade currently, from the current situation, will actually be, anything will be an improvement because it will then be based on a level playing field. So projections with MFN will be welfare enhancing, irrespective. They will create trade for the stronger partner, for a stronger player. Now, just a minute on why I'm here at the World Bank, because I think it's just important to say to this group that the World Bank has actually, there's a very new, relatively new department that has been created. Some of you will know that, called the Department for Regional Integration, specifically with reference to South Asia. And that's the reason that I'm here at this important conference. And so you will see us, representatives from the World Bank, hopefully more frequently at such events throughout the region. And we also aim to support initiatives in each country. We're already starting one in Pakistan, where the Regional Trade Advisory Group is supporting that. And we'll hope to have similar initiatives in many of the countries in South Asia. We've also recently received a request, for example, on helping upgrade the Wagah border on Pakistan side. And we'll be working on that together with the IFC and the ADB, for example. So I think I think the World Bank is very excited about what's going on in the regional space. And that's why it is now in South Asia, in the region of the management, it has become one of the top 5 priorities of the World Bank for South Asia. So, as important, for example, as nutrition, which is another one of the priorities, but it is so important enough for management to make it a top priority. So I'll end with that and thank Ikrir and Nisha and everybody else and this young team. Very impressive. Keep up the good work, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Some housekeeping announcement. We'll get together again at 7:30 here. For those of you who want to go back to Claridge's and come back, the bus will be there at about 7, and by 7:15 maybe they will leave and be here by 7:30. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Very interesting. I was congratulated.
You're aware of it.
It's an absolute delight to see so many distinguished people on the dais and in the audience. and it's a privilege for ICRIER to welcome all of you to this dinner talk that will be chaired by Mr. N.K. Singh, and the talk will be delivered by Dr. Salman Shah. The bios and the CVs of both Mr. Singh as well as Dr. Shah are in the folder that you got in the morning, and I think all of you know who they are and what they do, so I'm not going to waste time in introducing the speakers. Mr. Singh, as you probably know, is currently the member of Rajya Sabha. Dr. Shah has been a former finance minister as well as is currently the chairman of the Lahore Stock Exchange. So we've got a very good panel for you this evening. I hope you enjoy the dinner talk, and thank you very much for coming. Mr. Singh, would you please take over?
Thank you very much, Rajat. Since the CV of distinguished Salman Shah Sahab has already been circulated, I will also not introduce him. He's been the former finance minister of Pakistan. And the subject which he has chosen today, which deals with enhancement of trade relations between India and Pakistan, is a subject quite dear to all of us who are here. Many of us who have been to Pakistan several times recognize that whereas there has been substantial forward movement, there is still a long way to go. I mean, if official trade statistics is just about 2.23 billion, with potential of trade, even by conservative estimates, to be in the region of about at least 9 to 10 billion, because a lot of the trade is taking place in more distortionary ways. Of course, there are barriers which need to be relaxed. I think that credible steps have been taken following the visit of not only the two commerce secretaries but the two commerce ministers on both sides. And this substantial trade liberalization, which has a lot of which has already taken place, this needs to be taken forward as the negative positive list part of it gets resolved. As for the issue of the MFN treatment, which was on which there was perhaps a degree of understanding that would have been completed by December. But of course, we recognize there is now an important election which is around the corner, and hopefully in the post-electoral scenario, some of the unfinished agenda which relates to non-tariff barriers, which relates to customs procedures, which relates to opening up more points of entry on both sides, which relates to uniformity in issues of standards, really I think are issues on which I think both sides need to really get their act together further. But I think it will be fair to say that notwithstanding some of the other differences which exist on the issue of trade and commerce, there has been very credible progress in the course of the during the last 2 years. And I think that the agenda before us, and I think that, Salman Shah, I'm sure you'll throw some light on it, is what needs to be done in the medium term, considering that on some of the other issues, there is not likely to be too much unanimity. Of course, one cannot overlook the fact that some of these distractions which come, or aberrations which come, are precisely designed to perhaps prevent the full advantages of the full normalization of trade and commercial relations to take place. But notwithstanding that, I think that the virtuous circles which can be built around trade, commerce and investment are areas where I think that there is a strong mutuality of interest for both countries to pursue together. I will not speak more on this. I'm going to request you, Salman Sahab, to now make your observations. Thereafter, we'll ask some questions and take it as it goes along. Salman Sahab.
Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable N.K. Singh, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Dr. Rajat Katuria, Chief Executive of ICRIER, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a pleasure and a privilege for me to address this select gathering for the annual conference on normalizing India-Pakistan trade. This is the third time I have had the opportunity to visit Delhi at the invitation of ICRIAR. And I must say that every time ICRIAR does a really fantastic job. It's always outstanding arrangements, outstanding topics, outstanding participants, and something which is very contemporary and the need of the hour. And this time also by launching this 3-year program on normalizing trade relationship between India and Pakistan, and the research which is needed to understand the issues, I must congratulate you for this effort. I think we have been cut off from each other for so long that there is a great paucity of credible information on economic issues and potential of Pakistan-India trade normalization. Not only policymakers in both countries, but also the common citizens of India and Pakistan need to be fully informed to enable decision-making and policy formulation at all levels. It would be a great idea to supplement this effort of ICRIAR with a similar project in Pakistan as well. Last night when I was writing this speech, my wife said that if you can't say what you have to say in 10 minutes, then it's not worth saying it. So that meant that I had to cut it out, lots of things. And so I have to go to the crux of the issues which we are looking at. And my theme would be somewhat broader than the trade relationship. My theme would be the India-Pakistan relationship in general, which I think is closely connected with the trade relationship. And it's, as the Honorable N.K. Singh said, it's a very virtuous cycle whereby if you make progress in trade, you end up making progress in the relationship. But you need to make the relationship work if you want to make trade sustainable and to provide its sustenance. So I think we have to have this virtuous cycle really take off. That regional trade is a win-win proposition, I think has been debated and researched all over the world. And we know that well-structured rules and processes, infrastructure between neighbors and regional trade can really contribute to trade enhancement, to growth in GDPs, to making the regional economies more competitive in a global environment, and generally leads to well-being and prosperity of the citizens of each country within the region. And regional trade can reach enormous levels. So I was just looking at the various regions and regional arrangements, and I was surprised that in the ASEAN, almost 25% of their trade is within the partners, and in the European Union, it's almost 70%, and in NAFTA, it's almost 51% of their trade is within those areas. And in our case, of course, it's negligible. So this morning, somebody said that when you're looking at your model, ignore the existing trade because it's negligible, and that's very true. So we are really starting from a scratch. And really the issue is, how can we pull this off in a very equitable manner, in a win-win kind of a manner? And since morning, we have had 3 at least sessions which were very, very illuminating, and we were able to kind of bring some numbers to the table, which I think in Nisha's presentation we were talking about $30 billion, and then we said no, maybe $20 billion, and it's like Imran Khan's party in Pakistan. Somebody asked them how many seats you would win, and they said maybe 20, maybe 120. So I think trade with India is also kind of a similar proposition. It could be 20 billion or it could be 120 billion, and it depends on how we are going to do it. And tomorrow, I'm sure, when we look at the next sessions, which are probably 3 or 4, I'm sure by the end of tomorrow, the number would probably be 150 billion. So I think the opportunity is there. And when we look at different components, I wish in this conference we had something about tourism. Imagine if 1.6 billion people of this region, of this subcontinent, were allowed to move freely within the region. Tourism alone would be more than what Nisha is estimating for the whole trade area. So why can't we, I mean, we know all of this. Everybody in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they know that this is something which can be achieved. But we have not really been able to do it. This is now 60 years of our independence, and basically our mindset has not really changed. And when you look at other areas, other regions, particularly if you look at Europe, in 1946, Churchill, after the war, said that if you have to eliminate this butchery of war, you have to create United States of Europe. So in 1946, this is what Churchill said. And in 1947, we got our independence. And in 1949, France, UK, and the Benelux countries decided to set in place a Council of Europe to cope with the division, to cope with their past history, and started moving towards a common market. And this was the time when we were struggling on how to distribute our assets. India and Pakistan were having a tough time on coping with the division of assets. And in 1957, Treaties of Rome established the European Economic Community. And in 1957, Field Marshal Ayub was thinking of taking over the government in Pakistan. And we were moving towards and experimenting with our first military government. And then we moved into the Western camp in the Cold War, while India moved in the other direction. So our trade relationship was really something which never was important. And even before independence, really, if you look at the British period, it was not about, the Indian economy was not about benefiting the people of India. The Indian economy was how it can benefit the colonial setup, when the trade relationship was more how to satisfy the industrial needs of European industry by providing them the cheap raw materials from here. Then in 1965, we moved and we had a war in Kashmir. And in 1967, Britain applied to join the ECC. So now you can see this track. On one side, you are building up this whole new effidas of economic cooperation in Europe, whereas we are moving in a totally opposite direction. And the reason why I'm going through this is that this is also something which tells us that it takes long time to really come to some kind of frameworks and understandings. And we saw that in 1971 we went to war in Bangladesh, and then we had nationalizations in Pakistan, In India, you were already struggling with the socialist kind of economy, and questions of trade were really not high on the agenda. In any case, by the end of the 70s, the European Council established the European monetary system based on a European currency and the exchange rate mechanism. And we were moving into the after effects of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. And again, I think we were on the opposite sides of the struggle in Afghanistan. And after the Soviets were defeated in Afghanistan, India and Pakistan almost had a proxy war in Afghanistan. And when this was happening in February 1992, Maastricht Treaty on the European Union was signed, leading to creation of the euro. And in 1998, when President Musharraf